It's back to the cartoons of the 1930s, but also the old school difficulty of video games from the 80s and so on. Cuphead is infamous for its challenge and demand of the player, especially in regards to pattern memorization and reflexes. This game doesn't hold back. I recently got to beating Cuphead after putting it down years ago. My main reason for doing so was, well, the King Dice fight. I'll talk about that a bit later on. And I wanted to cover it for my channel because of that. In terms of gameplay, Cuphead is quite straightforward. It's a run and gun experience with platform elements, though there are only about 6 standard levels in the game, with most of the experience being boss fights. At the beginning of the game, you have a standard pea shooter, but with coins you can collect in levels, you can visit Porkran's Emporium to purchase more weapons for you to use, expanding your arsenal. The game allows you to equip two at once, allowing you to mix and match. This makes it so that you can adapt to changes in a boss's attack pattern and deal with extra hindrances during the fight. So make a habit of experimenting with different pairs of weapons to see what works. You can also buy charms for that extra bit of insurance against bosses. When I play this game, the charge is my go-to. The damage it does when charged turns the boss's health bars into paper mache. I also favour the spread shot. It helps me deal with threats like enemies attacking from the air, while simultaneously dealing consistent damage to the boss. In terms of charms, I mainly stick to the hard charm. In scenarios where mistakes are borderline guaranteed to be made, the extra hit point serves as a lifeline, albeit at the cost of reduced attack power. But it's reliable and that's what counts. Let's talk about supers and EXs now. At the bottom left of your screen, you'll notice these small cards rise up as you deal more damage and parry pink projectiles and objects. When one is fully raised, you can use an EX attack. These are souped up attacks that do a bit more damage than usual at the cost of one card, though your super attacks are what you really want to save the cards for. When you have 5 cards saved up and spinning, you can use your super attack. Good timing and usage can be the deciding factor in your victory or your bitter defeat. With the progress tracker on the death screen taunting you alongside the defeat quotes of the boss, making you see exactly how close you were to victory before dying. And it hurts. Even worse when you can see your icon right at the finish line, see you were right there. Despite the difficulty of the game being, arguably, the biggest selling point, I don't find it too overbearing to be honest. Cuphead, despite its punishing gameplay, also rewards your perseverance. The difficulty wasn't the kind that I felt putting the game down to, but the kind that made me want to keep retrying. And I think that's one of the best forms of video game difficulty. I really enjoy the feeling of finally getting a boss down to the wire and seeing that giant KO across my screen. The moments just before are tense though. You never truly know whether you're about to cry tears of joy or tears of rage. You just have to keep pushing till the end. The game's art style and graphic design all pay homage to the cartoons of the 1930s, like I said at the beginning. And that's also expressed in the game's soundtrack too. Tons of swing and old fashioned jazz to fight bosses to. My favourites being Junkyard Jive and Railroad Wrath. The energy and momentum of these tracks makes up for the pain and suffering you. Actually, you know what? No, they don't. But Cuphead has a fantastic soundtrack nonetheless. I haven't actually listened to any of the DLC tunes from the Delicious Last Course DLC, nor have I played it yet, but I hope to change that soon. Too important, but I thought I'd talk about my experience anyways. When I first played this game, I made quite a bit of headway. No matter how many times I was knocked down, I'd hit retry and start the cycle again until I got the win. All was going well until the King Dice fight. Back then, this fight actually made me drop Cuphead. Every beatdown I suffered before this was tame compared to the nonsense I had to go through during this fight. I truly felt hopeless, having to mandatorily fight multiple mini bosses, while also having to parry the dice in the middle just right so you didn't have to fight a mini boss you weren't good at. was aggravating, and it just kept building up no matter how patient or persistent I was. I just couldn't beat it. Depending on who you ask, this is probably the most annoying fight in the base game. But you know what? After years, I finally re-downloaded the game and beat it. After using the genie, I forget his name, to grant me an extra hit points for the boss. At least my first time round a few months ago. But since then, I can beat this blockhead without resorting to that. Which is actually the recording you're seeing right now. Playing it now isn't that much of a big deal to me. It's just back then, so many of the attacks threw me off. Like until I re-downloaded the game, I didn't realize that his head didn't have touch damage, and if you just parried the cards properly, there was little to worry about. But aside from that, I'm glad I came back to this game. Cuphead made waves when it first arrived on the scene. The style was eye-catching, the soundtrack was excellent, and the difficulty made everyone who played it lose their sanity, dignity, and hair. It's hard to appreciate while getting mollywopped, but the game's animation is fluid and seamless. I've already mentioned this, but it goes great lengths to honor cartoons of the past and pulls off in the medium of video games of all things. That's really not something you see every day. To make such an impression and still be relevant years later, to the point of even getting an actual cartoon made for it, is amazing in my eyes. And even a new game, which I just found out like the other day. In case the last few minutes of ranting didn't make it clear, this game is brutal. You will lose countless times before you win. But with good reflexes, a high tolerance for pain, and sleepless nights, you'll eventually appreciate the charm of this game. But that's all I have to say for now. Thank you for watching. And just to close things off, here's my fight with the final boss on expert difficulty. Once again, thank you for watching.